Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Third Culture Convos. Today, boys, we're going to talk about Kanye with no further ado, because Kanye is on all everybody's mind right now.
You know what
They
we
won't
need for
let
this is
they won't let this man sleep.
we need that little sound in the background that goes ooh, because geez, this whole thing with Kanye is just like what? Like seriously.
He brings a lot of strong
interject.
opinions. So first thing, what's this whole thing with Kanye? Okay, like because I have weird attitudes when it comes to like celebrities. I try not to know, but then once I start to dig, I start to go down rabbit holes. So what's this whole thing with Kanye that you're mentioning? What's going on? And what does it mean?
I would say probably between the three of us, I'm the most ignorant and not as well educated about the situation because I don't really follow stuff. I follow stuff even less than probably Waseem. But obviously Kanye kind of pops up every so often where the question basically is this for me? Is this guy for real? Or is he doing it for clickbait and to get attention and all that kind of stuff? MJ, I feel like you're the most up to date with the Kanye situation. So I guess maybe you can give a quick rundown because things kicked off again beginning of October. So a couple of weeks ago, from what I understand.
I don't know the timeline exactly because every day it's something. Waseem, you said they won't let the man sleep. Some will say the man refuses to go to sleep. And people are just covering him. And people are just repeating what he is saying. What's happened, I don't know exactly like when it popped off or how it popped off, but Kanye said like he tweeted a bunch of quote unquote anti-Semitic stuff, and then he started really pushing the button. He printed a shirt which said White Lives Matter, and he then came on Tucker Carlson on Fox News and he said a bunch of other stuff there, independent free thinking stuff, the free thinker movement. He said like a whole bunch of there's genius in what he says, and then there's absolute you're the rock bottom stuff what you're saying. And then recently he came on a podcast called Drink Champs Podcast. It's very big in the rap community, and he said a whole bunch of other stuff. What he said I've stopped listening to, so like I can't give you exactly because I've stopped listening to him, but I stopped following him after he came out with the MAGA hat. When he met Donald Trump is when I lost khalas, I admit you're a genius. You changed my life. You really, your first 5 albums were life-changing for me. I was a Kanye stan. I still like musical genius, but political, exactly what you're saying, Rashed. Is he doing it because he believes it? Or is he doing it because it's outlandish and he just needs the attention at this point? And there's a whole bunch of factors coming into all of this, right? So there's like anti-white racism that's involved in this. There's anti-Semitism involved in this. There's the Black Lives Matter / White Lives Matter. This thing is happening. There's also the fact that Balenciaga and a number of high-profile Gap, Adidas, a number of high-profile, very rich companies have cut off ties with him. So many in the Black community are like, yo, he's talking himself out of literally billions. And there's just, it's all over the place. There's also one last card that's also like very heavy in all of this, and that is the mental health conversation. So maybe he's can't control it, and this is who he is, and he needs help and mental health, and how much can that be excused in all of this? Waseem is itching to get in here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I think one of the I had a bunch of reactions to what you were saying. Okay, and the last thing was the mental health one. But the first was like, the anti-white, the anti-this, the anti-that. And I think, unpopular opinion, I think that there's a lot of once you start going into, it's like, you know how you dropped him when he wore the MAGA hat? I think that's interesting. I think it's interesting, and why. Okay, like the question becomes, why do you wear the MAGA hat, right? And then that brings up what Rashed said. Is he just like trolling? Because that's what I initially thought. I was like, oh, he's just trolling. But then I heard some things later that he was like, I'm trying to like so what? Like like this guy's the president. I'm trying to build like bridges for the for community. Like I heard that like type of like savior type of mentality coming from him, like that type of savior mentality, like I'm so great and now it's my job to do that. And so I don't necessarily X him because he's wearing a MAGA hat. Not necessarily. So why'd you X him?
I didn't X him because of the MAGA hat. It's because there's no answer to why he's wearing the MAGA hat. That's my problem. It's not your political affiliation. It's the fact that you don't really have, in my opinion, from whenever you've spoken about this politician, you don't have real political policy reasons for why you're supporting him. You just seem to be supporting him because you want to be outlandish, because you're trolling. And I can't respect that because there's real world, real life damaging consequences to what you do when you do that. If you wear it out of the honesty of your heart and you're like, I believe that we need borders and you know what, we
need to make America great again. I really believe we need to make America great again.
If he really believes that, I would respect it, but I don't think there's any genuine, he talks a lot in general policy terms. He doesn't really get to the point ever kind of thing. So I didn't X him because of the MAGA hat. I X'd him because of the lack of reasoning behind wearing the MAGA hat. Does that make sense?
It does. Sorry, it does make sense. And at least when I look back, and this is not just like a recent thing only, like this has been happening for quite a few years with where Kanye has been exhibiting political ideology and basically right-wing conservative type of stuff. And obviously at the time period we're talking about the MAGA hat, it makes sense that if he's going to be espousing that type of right-wing political ideology, who else is he going to cling to apart from the president of the United States at the time, who would be basically putting forth, his whatever things that he would agree with, which is a right-wing conservative type of viewpoint. Now, does he have to justify it? I mean, if someone has a personal political ideology and thought process, do they have to justify why they believe in those politics?
When you're wearing the hat, go ahead, Waseem. Go ahead.
No, but I got a question because I'm trying to think about like similarities between like other situations, and like how Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart are like really good friends, right? Mm-hmm. And they have like a show together and all this stuff, and they go into this. And I don't necessarily know what's going on with Snoop Dogg
and the like, freaking flirting on that cooking show when I was watching it a few times. I'm like, good God, he just like gave it to her in the green room. Like she loved it. Like she was all for it.
I don't know why. Like the Majid, is it the same as Kanye like cozying up with DT and Martha cozying up with Snoop?
Not really, because one of them doesn't have real world consequences. Like Snoop and Martha chilling is unity and it's going to bring community together. But this one, when they're chilling, it's clearly divisive. The Black community is like clearly divided on this man because of it, right? Not even divided, they're united in their own
against it. Yeah, well,
against it.
Well, not every.
You don't need to justify it, by the way, Rashed.
But no, these are soft words, right? Like, because like I think like this is when you start to like looking at things as monoliths, as like just like big things. Because this is probably what brings me to like my next point on it, which was like like the anti-white or the anti-this or the anti-Muslim or the anti-this, is that you start putting sort of monolithic ideas. Like here, engage with me in this discussion. But like, I think you start putting monolithic ideas onto sort of something that's being said, saying that this statement is like anti-Muslim, even though maybe that person is not anti-Muslim, maybe that person is like anti like me, like right now. Like maybe this person is trying to bother me right now, and not necessarily it's how they feel about an entire like Islamic community. Because I always feel weird when I have to like represent the Islamic community or like any particular community when I'm in the job of representation. I'm like, oh man, but there's so much diversity. How come it falls to me to be the representative of this thing?
See, I'm glad you brought this point up when it comes to two people teaming up together, and doesn't matter who they are in the situation. Question for you guys quickly before I get into the point that I wanted to make. I do have a general timeline up on my phone of things that have transpired this month particularly.
This month only.
That we can like just go over quickly since October 3rd, so we can all really just be understood. So basically October 3rd, he was at the Yeezy fashion show in Paris, where he wore the White Lives Matter shirt with, and I'm going to get back to this point, Candace Owens. Keep that name in mind. Okay. October 4th, he criticized
what a troll, man.
Bernard Arnault at the West, saying that basically he killed his friend in reference to designer Virgin Abloh, who in the end died of cancer. Couple of days later, he publicly complained about his contract with Adidas, saying, "Fuck Adidas, I'm Adidas. Adidas raped and stole my designs." He has the interview with Tucker Carlson a couple of days after that. This now relates to the conservative viewpoint of anti-abortionism. And he says there's more Black babies being aborted than born in New York City at this point. 50% of Black death in America is abortion. And then he goes on to say about Lizzo, being overweight is genocide of the Black race. And then a day later, he gets into this tiff with Diddy over something. And then here's the big one. October 9th, on his Twitter, he says, "I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." And that brought out the protests in support of him, of like, this crazy neo-Nazis in LA over the freeway saying, "We agree with Yeezy."
Well, this dude's manic, man. Like, this is classic. Like, he's all over the place.
Now, here's the thing. A couple of days later, so that happened on the 9th, on the 11th, he basically says that me talking about Jews is fine, or the Jewish people is fine, because of the fact that Black people are Jews. So he's making a link to one of the 12 lost tribes of Israel. Okay. And then something about Planned Parenthood. Oh, Planned Parenthood was created to control the Jewish population, which in turn is related to controlling the Black population in the United States. Something about the shop, Drink Champs. That's where he claims that George Floyd passed away from drugs in a system like fentanyl, and not that Derek Chauvin was kneeling on his neck for 9 minutes. And then
I think I totally understand why you don't want to listen anymore. Like, I totally feel like I'm done with this shit.
And then here's the other thing. October 17th, he did two things on the 17th of October. The announcement that he'll be purchasing Parler, the conservative right-wing social media platform. And then the whole thing about DEFCON 3 relating to the fact that Jewish underground media mafia, so that when Black artists sign on to these record labels, they're controlled by the Jewish population, and they basically sold their souls to the devil, essentially, and they have no power over their music. And then he apologizes on Piers Morgan, and then and he
apologizes. Okay.
These names,
and then he calls Joe Biden a retard.
Piers Morgan, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. They're not necessarily people you want to be associated. You guys talked about one person. I'd give you one person, but this is like a hat trick.
No, and then when he was talking to Piers Morgan, he says Biden is a retard, effing retard, because he wouldn't take advice from Elon Musk, the alien. So I want to go back to Candace Owens, because we're talking about influence. And so people may not know who Candace Owens is. And she basically is, she's African-American, and she's an author, and she's a right-wing conservative to, like, I mean, whatever, she's against abortion. She's against immigrants, in a sense, where she basically in the past has basically said that Europe is going to be taken over by Muslim migrants, and that the United States by 2050 is going to have to save England from all the brown people coming over. So the thing is, like, she was wearing the shirt with him, and she's getting nothing. Like, no one's saying shit about her. So my question now is that this whole White Lives Matter thing, for example, wearing the shirt, right? Like, it's related to what you're asking, Waseem. You know, Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart teaming up together and doing some random cooking show where there's like heavy flirting going on. Like, some people probably got pregnant just watching the damn show. But then you have Ken's, like, how much influence do you think she's had on his recent viewpoints? Because the mental health issue is a huge deal in this whole situation. And I sent you guys a video that Trevor Noah did recently. I mean, Trevor Noah is Trevor Noah. But I agreed with him at his point where he's talking about, he basically was saying that if you're going to talk about and acknowledge the fact that you have mental health issues and that you're trying to work with it and deal with it type of thing. But then when people try and be helpful towards you and be like, dude, what's happening with your meds? And you're like, fuck you, I don't need to take my meds or whatever that is. Like, where's the onus, the personal onus that, like, he's going on social media saying all this crap, doing all this stuff, right? And he's officially admitted, I'm bipolar and I have medication for this stuff. But then at some point he's like, I don't want to be dependent on those meds, but there's a reason for them. And then every time he says something weird and people are like, dude, have you taken your meds? It's like, you can't take this away from me, the fact that I have meds, and but I can still say what I want, type of thing, even if I'm on or off the meds. So for me, there's meds and other people who are in the background, like maybe Candace Owens, that are heavily influencing what's going on.
The damn shame in all of this, I take this topic very personally. I've stated I'm a Kanye fan. The rapper who he started off as, literally the college dropout, Pink Polo Kanye, was the exact, like, he started off, we've gone from the college dropout to the corporate sellout to I don't even know now. Like, this is now unprecedented territory. 2020 buzzword, everybody. Unprecedented. The mental health aspect, I want to just go off on a tangent here for a second, because this a lot of millionaires have been talking about mental health recently. A bunch of athletes, Naomi Osaka, Ben Simmons, and Kanye is now included in this, like, millionaires with mental health issues. If you guys with all your money that can afford you care and, you know, anything really, are having mental health issues, have you guys ever considered the struggling people who statistics are showing you on an everyday basis? Your World Bank and your State Department and your Federal Reserve is showing you that there's a recession, that we're living in a recession. You guys ever considered those people? Like, have you ever considered poor people and having mental health? You're still living in luxury and you can get treatment. Again, if Kanye can afford the best doctors to give him the treatment, it's up to him to actually take the meds. But the accessibility to meds is right there. How do these guys get off being so heliocentric, so self-centric, that they're bitching in public with millions in the bank about their mental health and how depressed they are? You want to kick your depression? Go help 5 people. That instantly will make you feel better. And you have everything. You have a name, you have a status, you have money, you have accessibility that me and you and normal people don't have. I understand you need to do self-care. I get it. I'm not trying to be too harsh. I understand that, like, everyone deals with mental health and all of this. But I do think there's a certain amount of myopia that has set in with these millionaire mental health cases.
Okay. Look, listen, when it comes to mental, listen, this is my take on when it comes to mental health. I don't necessarily think that it's like a one size fits all, even with like meds and non-meds, because there are dark sides to like everything. So sometimes, like, one of the issues with meds is that they can like, they don't just numb, like, you know, like one feeling. They numb all the feelings. And so then there are issues why there are reasons why people don't want to take the meds, right? And also like mental health issues can affect just similar to addiction. It changes the way your brain is structured. So then you like it's harder to and I think that with Kanye, the thing with Kanye is that the more outlandish things he does, even though I don't think it's not news, like that people don't know that he's bipolar and that he struggles with mental health issues. I don't think people don't know that. It's just that when he does something that's like loud, outlandish, and that can be like poking the bear type of thing, he gets very like people are quick to like throw that away, quick to like ignore all that, mainly because they're so excited to deal with the crazy parts of what he's saying, what he's doing. Because like, if let's say he makes like, it doesn't make sense to hold him up as like the leader of a community, right? Like, oh, he's so brave, or he's so wonderful, or he's so like the way they do with like, with Greta, right? Like what they do with Greta for the environmental like stuff. They take this girl and they put her up and they like hold her up as a symbol and as a sign, even though there are mental health issues there as well. And like I don't necessarily think that the populace have the sort of the best intentions, really the best intentions in mind for that person. Like there's no mercy, there's no compassion in our hearts for these guys, for these people, and what they actually have to go through, because they make us feel better about our like position as the mob, or as the group, or as the people like that don't know them. So if you're anti-Semitic, or if you're like part of the neo-Nazi crowd, right? Let's just say, and that would be something you would grasp on, the thing that Kanye said, and be like, oh, now hold him up as like as a leader. And if he said something else the next day that totally negated what he said the day before, like it's willful ignorance, because what I needed was him to say that one thing for me. Like, look at him, he was wearing the MAGA hat. All I had to do was wear it once, and now he's the MAGA guy. And if he like burns the hat the next day, it's done. The crowd has now got their fix on proving to themselves why they're right. And so I think his narcissism, his deep narcissism, brings out narcissistic tendencies within the crowd that like watch him and like listen to him, and so that's what he kind of reflects, this like narcissism that exists even within us all. Does that
Yeah, it so I wanted to just go back quickly to what you're saying about medication and how it affects people, like the different side effects and how it can change a person. And I was reading that, I think pretty sure Kim at one point, it wouldn't have been Chloe, it was Kim, who said basically that it was either on an Instagram or a Twitter, something like, or there was some comment that she made that Kanye, when he was on his medication, was a completely different person. Now, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know if she said it in a positive or a negative way. So my question comes into that situation then, is he a completely different person in the sense that he doesn't express himself the same way? So like, could there have been an influence on his music? Let's say, for example, of when he started taking the medication. And is there a correlation? Because I don't know. I haven't really followed his music that closely to know that, oh, here's some of the things that he's produced that it wasn't as good as his early stuff before he was taking medication, type of thing. So I can, what you're saying, MJ, so I can understand why some people in the limelight who are like, for example, artists, whether they're musicians or whatever like that, may be hesitant to take medication for mental health reasons because it might stifle their creativity.
With Kanye, just from my analysis and other people's too, other like fans of his old stuff, there definitely has been like there's the old Kanye and the new Kanye, and Kanye himself has rapped about this in a song. People want the old Kanye, I'm the new Kanye, whatever. And that was part of his new Kanye like thing, which is why I can't remember it. After his as soon as he started getting famous, his mom passed away from cancer, Donda, and that's what his last album was called, Donda. I think that had a really unfortunate lasting effect where that support and that common sense just slap him in the face that, yo, I don't care who you are. You can make the greatest thing in the world. I'm still your mother. That I think had a deep, because this goes back to the influence that you had mentioned, Rashed, about like the people around him. He's had historically good people around him, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Dave Chappelle. We can all agree that these are generally solid thinking people. They have a track record of non-obnoxious behavior. Most of them. Talib's recently kind of weird. But he's had very solid hands around him, including Jay-Z. He beefed with Jay-Z more than Jay-Z beefed with him. Like back in the day, after like Big Brother, the track with Big Brother, like on Big Brother. So the mother factor is big. And then he got involved with high profile women. You named Kim Kardashian as one of them. Amber something is another. Amber Rose, I think is her name. And they didn't necessarily, he might have put a little too much emotional investment in them or something. It's not just mental health. And this is my problem with Kanye, is that this stuff keeps happening. Even when he was on his meds or normal Kanye, old Kanye, he acted like a jerk with Taylor Swift. Granted, I was with him at the time that, yo, you robbed Beyonce. That's one of the greatest videos of all time. I agree with him, but the way he did it was wrong. Even the George Bush don't care about black people. I'm with you, bro. And that's the event. That's what happened. What happened from George Bush don't care about black people to this is my dragon energy brother? Where did you go from the college thinking intellectual type of like, we're all self-conscious, I'm just the first to admit it, that raw honesty, that's what got everybody. Spaceship, the song Spaceship is about working the graveyard shift and just wanting to fly away anywhere but here because it's not working. What happened from that to cutting your ties with Balenciaga? How that artist evolution happened, this mom factor was a big thing, and the influence of others is now adding up, and it's decaying him faster and faster, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's another problem in this whole situation as well in previous things that, oh, sorry.
One last point I just wanted to is I do believe that society, that's all I meant to say, is that society has also enabled his behavior, which is what Waseem was talking about, that like the crowd gathers to see something outlandish. And for years we've put up with it. This is now just the final sort of craziness, but there were patches of crazy that we all accepted. And we were all like, oh yeah, that's cool. Go ahead, Rashed. Thank you.
Another thing that I was going to say that's related to this as well is the kids. So a lot of the stuff that he was doing on social media was going on about Kim not letting me see the kids and blah, blah, blah. And I can't see them for their birthday and blah, and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, dude, enough already. Like, you're affecting little people in a bad way. These little people that you're the father to, basically. So the thing is, it's like, I always go back to the ownership. I'm always going back to the ownership of your actions and what you do and how what you do and what you say affects other people, especially when you have an influence on people, whether there be family members or just random strangers who are fans out in the Webiverse.
I think you answered your own question at the beginning that you had asked, Rashed. Why does he need to justify his actions? Literally, what you just said is why he needs to justify what positions he takes publicly.
Okay. Yeah,
Waseem,
yeah.
do you want to add anything in terms of the fatherhood or any of that actually? Like,
well, I like, even in the outlandish, right? There's all this is the like, I feel like I'm on tricky territory right now when I'm approaching this piece of the puzzle, because when sometimes, okay, it takes a lot, I think, to say something that's against the crowd, right? Like, if the crowd is all going one way, then you're like anti-white racism, right? Like if you show up at like a Black Lives Matter like movement with a like White Lives Matter t-shirt, and you're black, right? And you're black. That's key here.
You better be Debo. You better be Debo from Friday.
Yeah, like because you're and so here's like a question. Please, nobody get me wrong. This is a question. I do not have an answer to this question. Okay, but my question would be: is he bringing light? Like because it's so. Like the group. This is what the group thinks, and if he says, you know what, that like, what about like anti-white rhetoric? Like, what do you want to do with all the like? This is like I joke, but like, what do you want to do with all the rich white guys? Like, okay, well, what's our plan for rich white people now? And that like in bringing up the unpopular opinion, like in bringing up, it's not even an opinion because I don't necessarily think it's an opinion. I think it's provocative, right? Like and I think Kanye, I guess, Kanye is an artist, right? Like he's an artist, and one of the purposes or the goals of art is to provoke you into a feeling or a thought or something that like you may not necessarily want to be at. It may not be easy to get there, but it's supposed to like shock you into some art can shock you into a new position. And so as an artist, he goes and he wears a White Lives Matter shirt, which is in stark contrast to Black Lives Matter. Like he didn't write All Lives Matter, right? Like All Lives Matter was the original like anti-Black Lives Matter. So he didn't wear an All Lives Matter shirt. He wore a White Lives Matter shirt. Like what's he trying to say? That there is a white like that there like what's he trying to say? Yes, what is he trying to say in that?
I don't know what he's trying to say. I can.
That's the problem. No one knows.
But art doesn't necessarily tell you what you need to say. An artist like provokes and prods and pushes, but doesn't necessarily tell you now think this. So he brings up a conversation, and like maybe a conversation that nobody wants to have because nobody wants to talk about anti-white racism. Even the term, like I'm not saying that I want to talk about it either, but I'm just saying, like, and I can understand not wanting to talk about it if it was something to be talked about, like, you know, if you're like just like, oh, here we go, like it's like when people say, oh, look, he's gonna drop the race card now, that's why he didn't get the promotion, so now he's gonna start dropping the race card. And when you start talking like that and start saying, oh, now you're dropping the card, you start to use these social like these things as like ways to get ahead. And then the conversation is, you know, it's not about merit. It's not about this. It's about I feel like muddies the conversation. Nobody wants to talk about this.
I want to jump in quickly because there are some things that, so the White Lives Matter shirt is related to what he said a few years ago about Black people in the United States being enslaved mentally for 400 years when it comes to slavery. So like originally he said, you know, like this long period of a time, you know, at some point you basically succumb to the reality. And he's like, I'm not saying that we decided as African Americans to be slaves for 400 years. He basically goes back and says, no, like the fact is that these people unfortunately did not have the choice to be shackled and brought over, et cetera, et cetera. However, he tried to clear it up and say, after hearing it for so long and constantly being told for 400 years, you mentally start to accept that fact. And he says, when you have the numbers on your side, and I'm like, numbers as what? As like people who are enslaved. I mean, even still, what are you going to do? Like you have the shackles, like what are you going to, you could revolt against your slave masters, but like they still have the upper hand on you in general. And then I want to bring that to related to the White Lives Matter shirt. And what Waseem was just saying in terms of like, you bring up a point, but you don't necessarily have to explain your point. And now I'm going to try and explain my point without sounding like a complete moron about Kanye in general, about all the stuff that's going on. So a lot of these things we're talking about that are politically related are very much on the right side of things when it comes to the political spectrum. And Black Lives Matter as a movement, as a group, has been heavily criticized by people within the African American community, outside of the African American community. A lot of people who are African Americans do not feel that Black Lives Matter, the movement itself, represents all African Americans. And recently there was something about the leader or something like that was, he's being investigated for fraud or embezzlement or like something like that.
They're balling.
So for me,
leaders are balling.
Nah,
they're doing very
when
well.
Kanye is doing some of these outlandish, yeah, no, I know. And so when Kanye is doing these outlandish things that are politically motivated, I don't necessarily think that he is, because some people look at it as saying that he's completely disrespecting the African American experience historically and contemporarily. I think he's more so really trying to point out the ironies and the hypocrisy within things that political experiences that affect African Americans in general. And again, what we're saying, conversations that people don't want to have related to being specifically, in my specific point here, being an African American in the United States. So I think an element of him wearing the White Lives Matter shirt is not necessarily saying screw you to everyone who's been wrongly accused in the United States just for simply being Black or being arrested, like, you know, all the different stupid things that have different police departments around the United States. It's more so, it's not degrading those experiences. It's more so the movement itself that was supposed to do something positive for that community, and in the end is starting to be exposed for actually not doing that.
I'm all for playing devil's advocate. It's important, it's healthy. You should discuss, especially if it's uncomfortable, you should discuss it. The more comfortable something is, the less it needs to be discussed. That's pointless. The more uncomfortable, the better it is. I'm all for the devil's advocate, or just say anything. Let's talk about, like, yo, how does it feel to be a white person right now? Like, you guys don't think it's really difficult for white people now? Like, let's talk about it. Let's get to where we are. The problem with, so Rashed, I kind of agree with what you're saying, that like maybe he's taking this position, but then 2 days later, he talks about George Floyd not getting killed by a cop, but getting killed by the drugs, the fentanyl and stuff. And he has directly disrespected a Black experience, an African-American experience right there, 2 days later. So I agree with you. The first part, I'm all for the academic, intellectual, let's push boundaries, let's talk. Let me pretend like I'm a lawyer for a person who's guilty of sin and I know it, but I need to prove. I'm all for that lawyer sort of duality and approach everything and cut it down. But when you start contradicting your own sort of positions or policies, or this is the problem, he doesn't have any positions, policies. He's at some point, he's just saying outlandish shit for outlandish shit. And at some point, you, the listener, needs to just stop listening. Just stop.
Here's the thing though, based on what you just like, just a quick rebuttal as to what you just said, in the sense that I understand what you're saying. Like, I get it. Like 2 days later, he says something that's completely stupid, related to an experience of an actual individual and whatever. And it was proven in a court of law based on how George Floyd's family lawyers argued the case was that he was killed because of the 9 minutes of the knee on his neck. Now, here's the thing. He contradicted himself from something that he was saying before. But the fact of the matter is, who has never contradicted themselves? And on top of that, it makes it worse when you contradict yourself on social media, because that shit can't be taken back. But how many times have you or any one of us have been like just sitting around with friends, for example, and you're talking about a whole bunch of crap and you say something stupid, you realize they say something stupid because a discussion happens. So other people bring up points and be like, no, you have to understand that what you just said is not wrong, but also like think about other things that are related to XYZ point. I think the more important question related to that is more so, is Kanye listening to anyone else in terms of maybe realizing stupid things that he says? Like it almost feels like there's an element at times of like this that he has in through his music and whatever. Sometimes he says things that are really poignant and important, and like it makes you think, and you're like, sweet. And then he says something that's completely the dog's ass, and you're like, where the hell did that come from?
Oh, also, I think I'm not all right. Like, you know, out of respect for the families and the situation and stuff, like, okay, but it's like I okay, like, yes, and then like maybe you're making like whenever you start talking about fentanyl, you're talking about an opioid crisis that's fueled by that was fueled, and like there's a whole bunch of complicit people that are totally off the fucking hook, and like the real tragedy, and anyone's even saying in saying that, like whether it's true, whether this was the thing or was it the other thing, or was it a lifetime of this, or whether it was a lifetime of that, or that this was the straw that broke the camel's back, or whatever. When people talk about the opioid crisis, people talk, but in all honesty, I don't actually think that there's like, I'm a bit jaded when it comes to that, because I'm like, oh, nobody's gonna get in trouble. Like all these guys are like still getting rich, like that like the like, you know, Dope Sick, right? Like that used to, if you guys haven't seen Dope Sick, check it out. It's like the best Michael Keaton, the best I've ever seen Michael Keaton ever. The opioid crisis left a bunch of, like, you know, pharmaceutical companies like that drove it, that profited off of it, that like, and not just companies, people at these companies, right? Not like there are people, and they're still there, and they're still rich, and you only know half of them. You can only find half of their names. And so when you say something outlandish like that, yes, and at the end the attention, like, in the world goes down to like to let's say the family, to George, but none of that attention goes to where I think the right attention should go to, which is all these people that profited off of all this shit for like 30, 40, 50 years, and like destroyed, and like, it's not one life that was killed. They've killed hundreds and thousands, and they're complicit, I believe, in all of these, and all these deaths and the destruction of communities. And so even in saying that, it's like, I feel like even in the media, and here's my crazy for the day, and even in the media, there's an agenda to make the conversation about George Floyd and not about the opioid type. Like, okay, sweet, he said George Floyd, let's not talk about opioids. Let's talk about how he said that. Fuck that guy. Oh, Kanye, it's horrible. Da da da. And then all the attention was on Kanye, you suck, boo. What about those guys that are still chilling? They're chilling. They're still on their yacht. They don't know which yacht to take today. They don't know which yacht they want to take. And they destroyed communities and destroyed this. Like, you know, that's what gets me. Like, that's what grinds my gears.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point. It's also like, it's a very good point what Waseem is saying. And just to add on and to integrate what you had said earlier, Rashed, I do find it very interesting that anytime there's a right movement in America, there's a far right movement, I don't believe there's a left movement. None of these celebrities who have ever come out have ever had socialist policies, really. They don't seem to. They may support a politician or two, but they themselves don't really have and liberal and socialist are two different things here. Liberal is like, oh yeah, I'm cool with whatever. Socialist is like, we need to use government institutions and like socialize, like build our societies up. There are two different things here. Live and let live kind of thing, which is, so I don't know. I wish Kanye, I don't understand it, because again, his origin story was very left leaning, but he swung completely. Like, he should have been a pioneer and trailblazer for the left at this age. He should have been the like Bernie Sanders successor. Instead, he's DJT's successor. And it's sort of a mark of the Qayabat, if you know Islam.
The end of days.
The end of
I
days.
think there's another element that gets overlooked quite a bit, And I think there might have been a pigeonholing of himself at one point. Now, this is a complete assumption. I don't know. But he claims to be a Christian, like Christianity, like his Christian beliefs are a huge part of his life as he claims it to be. And typically, regardless of what ethnic background you come from, typically people who are more conservatively Christian end up being closer to the right side of things. So I'm not necessarily surprised where he basically affirms himself as a Christian in the United States, and then he's like buddy with Donald Trump. It doesn't surprise me, despite the fact that a lot of the things that Trump says and does and whatever, it completely like spits in the face of Christian morals and values. But for whatever reason, it's become synonymous, like the right and Christian, conservative Christian especially, it's become synonymous with being Republican for the most part. And I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who are Democrats who are quite Christian. But again, it goes back to what you're saying in terms of it really comes down to social policies, where people who are Democrats who are more liberal leaning, but then would be more for social programs, whereas people on the Republican side of things are less about social programs. Candace Owens, for example, is a person who she does not agree with welfare because she feels that keeps the African Americans especially living on a crutch instead of actually going out and improving their lives. They'll just continue taking the free money from the government type of thing. That's a completely different conversation, but that's generally her mindset. And then again, these same type of people would also be anti-abortion. One of the things that he was doing, he was at I can't remember what, maybe it was the Tucker Carlson or one of the podcasts, like he was wearing a necklace with like with a sonogram or something, like it to like basically be showing how pro-life he is type of thing. Like these are really outlandish things that people do in front of a camera.
And that's my problem, Waseem, with his trolling outlandish behavior. He says he's a free thinker, but he has his positions and biases already set in stone. He's not doing, we keep saying that he's playing the devil's advocate, but he's not actually, because he's only he's starting at a center point and stretching the conversation further right. He hasn't once stretched it further left. If you're going to do the whole devil's advocate and I'm a free thinker and I'm ready to look at all sides, then look at all sides first and then give me why I don't like this, why I do like this. He hasn't really, and that's what grinds my gears.
Well,
who does that really nowadays?
What?
Who grinds
Not
gears?
grind your gears, or
No, like what you just said, MJ. Like who? A lot of people grind my gears. But who really is in that free thinking phase in it? When like we've had free thinkers in history who are icons in their eras and everything like that, but really who's today's? Because everyone seems like it's stuck in some kind of
no, because you're not allowed to. I don't think you're like, the thing is, as soon as you express like, so like there's this like thing is that like people that go on Fox News and people that go on like CNN and like CNBC and all that stuff, and I mean I actually heard this, like Fox News, to their credit, will host a liberal
student about to graduate.
They will host someone that's like left, and then like we'll try to have a conversation with them. But the CNBC, NBCs of the world, CNNs of the world, won't even like if you're on the show, it's like guilty by association. So they won't talk. There's no talking. They don't bring these people onto the show. And if they do, it's mainly to like laugh at them and like yell at them and to like hit them with the stones and like
Anderson Cooper will snark at you.
The problem, and so this is, I probably would think is one of the issues with this sort of like the media, like the media business, is that they've kind of like, they drew their lines in the sand, and there's no, it's not like this is like fair and unbiased and like we're going to try to get to the bottom of this and we're going to try to figure it out and we're going to try to listen to the different nuances of a debate. Like, I mean, abortion is an example. We're not going to talk about abortion today. Like it's not gonna happen. But it's one of those issues where you're either on that side and you go sit over there, or you're on this side and you go sit over there. And don't let me catch any of you seeing or associating with anyone on the other side. Like if they have a point, don't give it to them. if they like there's this even if there's a point, even if there's a nuance, even if there's like something to be said. And so that's why we don't, I think, have these free thinkers, because as soon as you do express a free opinion that might be contrary to the group that is either the left or the right side that you're at, then you're kicked out of the group, and you can't even bring that person's name up in that like setting again. Like, and there's a bunch of people like that, I feel, in the world that like are, and Kanye's one of them.
Oh, the irony about this, and this is something you were alluding to earlier, MJ, about there's no socialist mindset in the United States, for example. It's a liberal mindset that's on the left side, but it's not really a socialist type of thing in mentality and in policy, etc. The thing that, so we just said there's no one who's a free thinker, and pretty much all of us are like, because you're going to get canceled. The funny thing is that the group that really is like the proponents for the cancel culture and always wanted to cancel somebody is these liberally type of thinking people. It makes no sense. Like, you're supposed to be all accepting, and you're the ones that are saying you can't say that. But you've been trying to promote that for how long? And now I can't say anything?
Virtue as a weapon. Virtue as a weapon. That's exactly what I'm talking about, man. There's people swinging around their swords.
Brother Malcolm talked about it, man. Like, no joke. This guy, the reason I follow him is because everything he says still stands. The most dangerous person for the colored community is a white liberal. Make no mistake about it. Like, I kind of like what I've seen. It's not like I can't deny what he's saying. And like, this is like just a thinking in the colored community generally. I would prefer a Republican who tells me straight up I'm from a shithole country and I'm a piece of shit than someone who pretends like I'm an equal but doesn't actually treat me like one. Like, I would prefer the first case any day. At least I know where I stand. And this is something Malcolm X talked about. The most dangerous person is the white liberal, because they act like we're all in this together, guys, but not you, but not you, but not you, and not you.
Yeah. Yeah, what did you say? What did you say about abortion? What do you like? Where do you stand on that? Okay, and it's not to know.
Yeah,
by the way,
so I know what.
That's why I do draw the distinction between the liberals and socialists, because like these liberal people are not what I learned in Canada about policy and political thinking. Sorry, Waseem.
No. I'm just like don't apologize.
We're beating on the fucking beaters finally. That's why
this is
jumping in, because
because the beating. It's not okay to say this, and like, I swear, I think these decisive. There's certain people.
We're canceling you. You know what? We're canceling you. Who are you to cancel us? We cancel you.
Man, he got angry. He dropped the mic, and he's across the room. Like, MJ, where'd you go?
Go defend Big Pharma.
Seriously.
Go sit with them. See how that works out for you.
Go give your money to politicians who love Big Pharma and are also supporting the whole like abortion clinics. Like, I don't know, man.
I got something crazy to say too. Which boost are you at?
Yeah, apparently here in Greece they're on like 27. Lord knows.
All right, homies. Yo, thanks a lot.
What have we concluded here? I don't know.
We don't make conclusions. That's for the listeners to decide.
I will say this.
They can
conclude. Don't listen to us. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
Okay, but I will say this. And this
ignore that part. No. Listen, please listen.
What I was gonna. This is going to be another topic in the future, obviously, because we've all agreed. At some point we have to talk about mental health issues within like a full-on episode within itself. But again, if anyone who's listening, if you're having issues and personal problems related to mental health, go get help. Don't see it as a weakness. A lot of people, especially men, see it as a weakness. It's not a weakness. Go and get help, because as I've said it once before and I'll say it again, the UFC fighter a few months ago, the guy from Liverpool who won his bout, and basically a few days before his friend committed suicide because of mental health reasons, he said, I'd rather have my friend cry on my shoulder than go to his funeral the next day. go get help. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, go get help. Like really, I have seeked help as someone who has actually seeked help. Again, you're just really getting it off your chest. There's nothing major. Your world's not going to change. It's only going to get better.
Yeah, we're up,
Definitely,
man.
like,
We're
go
all
get help.
human,
I don't know
man.
where I don't know how we
I don't
went
know how
from
we-
like
I don't know,
Kanye
yeah.
like beating on the wokies
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like but
Well,
like, go get help.
I mean,
My-
Kanye is so
like,
much
I
all
was
of
ready
this
to
stuff
like
involved.
my pitchfork was ready.
Oh, God.
I was gonna go take on the pharmaceuticals.
Are you going-
Like, don't
are you on your
don't
way
get
to-
it from
are you
them.
on your way to Carolina right now? Is that what's going on with your pitchfork? What's going on? Oh, I can't say that.
I
I'm
mean,
gonna be
look,
canceled now.
lots of love. There's resources for everybody. Lots of love, lots of support. I think we talk and we try to keep this light, but we try but like lots of love and like everybody's a human and everybody is worthy of love and deserves love and we love you.
And please, everybody who can vote Kanye 2024.
Pretty interesting, eh? See what happens.
You wanted a conclusion.
Yeah.
You wanted a conclusion, right? That's the conclusion.
Well, I think really now what it comes down to, any type of conclusion would be, again, regardless of who the hell the person is, no one has any freaking idea what Kanye is doing. So I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you.
15
Trying to make
years,
sense of things.
15
but
years
good
from
God.
now, 15 years from now, MJ is going to look at this video and be like, he's canceled. Someone's going to see both Kanye 2024. Cancel him. He said this 15 years ago.
And we're all screwed by association.
They're gonna wrap you up. All right. I'm gonna wrap this up. Yo, I'll see you guys later. Peace.
Bye.